hwsteele here. I'm doing a video to demonstrate how to figure out which planets you should or should not use on any particular market. This is not the only way to do it, but this is one of the ways to do it. And I'm using the Euro US dollar cross pair in the Forex market as an example to do it, since I was actually asked which planet should be used or watched for the Euro US dollar. And instead of just flat out answering that, I'm going to give you a method to use to be able to figure that kind of stuff out for yourself. Let's go ahead and look right here. This is the Euro US dollar. This is actually the daily chart here, but it's 30 years of information here. And in actuality, the Euro US dollar in its current form started on January 1st, 1999. And all this stuff that was before it, all this price data you see before it, is actually from the ECU. So technically, it's not actually the Euro US dollar in its current form. Like I said, it started January 1st, or right about this here, right here. So what we're going to do is bring up Astrolog, and I have it set to New York. That'll work fine for what we need. And I have it, let's see, the house system, I have it set to null. And then the aspects, I have everything, just these 5 right here, to the orb of 1, normally like I do. The restrictions, as you can see, I just have Jupiter and the Sun for right now, because those are the planets I'm going to use as an example. And of course, I have the calculation settings for the equatorial positions. The chart set for 9:30 a.m., which is fine, because we don't have to have any specific time of day, really. We're just interested in this particular instance, the date, which is January 1st, 1999. And specifically, we're interested in the position of the Sun at this point in time, because the Sun is actually the most important planet on any birth chart. So when we start to look at what planets affect a market, what we're really going to look for is whether or not the planet, in this particular instance Jupiter, whether or not it has any effects on the market when it's either conjunct or in opposition of the natal Sun, which is simply the position that the Sun is in on its birthday, which happens to be about 11.5 degrees in Capricorn. So really, we're interested in seeing what happens to the market when Jupiter is in opposition to the natal Sun, or 11.5 degrees. So it would be 11.5 degrees in Cancer. Then if we see any evidence of the Jupiter affecting the market, then we can go from there. If we don't see any evidence of it, then we can either forget it or we can try a different planet or whatever. But we'll go ahead and go and move Jupiter to position of 11.5 degrees Cancer. Let's see. Oops. Okay, right there. It's close enough. So we see here Jupiter was in opposition to the natal Sun of the Euro US dollar on September 5th, 2001. So if we look at the chart here, we see that September 5th, 2001 actually lands right around here. And we see that the market became the euro as we know it right here, and then continually moved down. It started at $1.18, and then it continually moved down to a low of about 82 cents right here, and fluctuated between 82 and like 95 cents or so, back and forth, this whole big bottom right here. So that kind of brings up something that's a little bit interesting. And that is that when Jupiter was in opposition of the natal Sun, we had a big low right here, or around about that period of time. So we could advance the time on the astrolog and see if Jupiter's conjunction to the natal Sun of the Euro US dollar coincides at all with this big top right here afterwards. Let's go ahead and advance Jupiter to let's see, 9, 10, 11.5 degrees Capricorn. And we see here that it's February 3rd, 2008. And if we look here, the big top was just a few months after February 3rd, 2008. So it does seem to affect the market. It seems that when Jupiter was in opposition, we had a very big low, and when Jupiter was in conjunction, both with the natal sun, then we had the big all-time high right there. Now, obviously, it wasn't exact, but it was pretty close. So if we go back to astrolog and once again advance Jupiter to the point where it's in opposition, which would be right about here, would be the middle of August 2013. Now, that's in a few months from right now from doing this video. So if we go back here, it would seem that the big low should occur somewhere in the next couple of months if the whole Jupiter thing is accurate. But remember, Jupiter showed opposition to the natal sun right around here. It wasn't precisely at this low here or even this low here, but it was very close, relatively speaking, considering the fact that Jupiter's orbit is 12 years. So this brings up the possibility that due to the influence of Jupiter against the natal sun's position for the Euro-US dollar, we may be having a low. The big low for the Euro-US dollar could be in for the next 4 or 5 years or so, and we may be moving back up significantly higher in price after this time frame here. So now we know that there's a decent possibility that Jupiter does have an influence on the Euro-US dollar. And now we know also that the influence of Jupiter on the Euro-US dollar may be something that's coming to head pretty soon here in just a few months. Let's go ahead and go down from 30 years down to 5 years. Go back to 2001 right here. Look a little more closely at it. Now let's bring astrolog up again and go back to 12 years before that. When Jupiter was in opposition to the natal sun. We see that Jupiter was actually physically in opposition to the position of the natal sun on September 4th, 2001. But that is, let's see, September, it's right here, in this dip right down there. So now what we need to do is, a lot of times when you have longer term planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune and everything, the generalization of the market will be a low or a high or a pause or something like that when the slow planet is in the proximity of the opposition or the conjunction, and you'll actually have a faster moving planet that actually times the actual high or the low. That's one of the things that are usually referred to as the wheels within the wheels. And if we'll pay attention to the sun here, if we go back and go back in time here to the sun, when the sun is in opposition to where the sun was at the creation of the euro, we see that that falls on July 2nd, 2001. And that is almost exactly precisely on this low right here. The low's on July 5th, 2 trading days after, or 3 trading days after the actual opposition of the sun to the natal sun. So now that we know that the sun did very well as being a trigger for the Jupiter opposition, we can go ahead and move the price chart up here to the big high that happened in 2008, and then advance astrolog up to that point. And we see that Jupiter was in conjunction to the natal sun on approximately February 4th, 2008, which is, let's see, right here. So it's not exactly at the high. It's nowhere near the high price-wise. Time-wise, it's pretty close to when the high was happening. But if we advance the sun to its opposition, just like it was last time, so the sun is in opposition to the natal sun, we see that July 2nd, once again, 2008, is our target date. Very close. the June and July. So it's very close to the final top right there. It's not perfect, but it's very, very close. If we look, we actually had the final top a couple of weeks after that, but then the market traded down significantly after that, very quickly, in fact. But then the overall trend of the market after that was basically down. So using Jupiter as our hour hand, so to speak, and the sun as our minute hand, we would have come very close to the point in time where we could have, in a position trade, shorted the euro US dollar right there. Now, if we advance it all the way to our current point in time, go back to astrolog, and then go forward in time to the point where Jupiter is, there we go, it's roughly accurate. Around August 13th, Jupiter will be in opposition to the natal sun again, so that's a few months away. But if we come back in time to where the sun itself is in opposition to the natal sun, we see that's on July 2nd again, 2013. And today is April 14th. So we've got like 2.5 months from that point in time. So if this continues to be accurate and work fairly well for the euro US dollar, we should see the market probably make another significant low point somewhere around here in the next 2.5 to 3 months or so. And then from that point, as far as positionally speaking, you would want to be long the euro US dollar. If we look at the actual price action, let's go from 5 years down to 2 years here. We see that there's kind of a head and shoulders pattern that may be starting. And if that's the case, then it would come down to somewhere in the neighborhood of right around here. Also, if we look at using the 50-50 method that I prefer, we see we have a big strong move here, a retracement. That's the B wave. And then the C wave would come down here. And we had approximately 10 cents. So that would bring us down to right around here, which again wouldn't be the all-time low that we had, not all-time low, but the lowest low that we've had in the last few years. But it would be the last significant low in the market before we started trading up again for the long term. So just based upon what we learned in this video, we could guesstimate that most likely we'll have the market, the euro US dollar, will move down probably for the next 2.5 to 3 months, probably to a price somewhere in the neighborhood of $1.20 to $1.22, 23, something like that would be most likely. And then from there, we're just going to move up quite strongly. We look here, we saw that the market moved pretty strongly after we had our final low. And then from up here, once we had our final top, the market moved very strongly down. So it looks like that after the final top or bottom comes in, then it will be a relatively strong move after that. And of course, we're talking here over periods of weeks and months and even years. So it's not exactly tradable on a daily basis or an hourly basis. But the method that I just went through can be used for any planet, and you can start to build evidences toward suggesting that a planet may be useful for a market or may not be useful for a market. And I'll probably do at least one more video showing another example of this method with some faster planets. And I'm not sure when I'll be able to get to that, but I'll put it on the list of things to do. So that'll be it for this video. I hope you got something out of there, and I hope you're willing to actually work for the information because it can come in very handy. And I will talk to you in the next video.